great documentary, I always find, takes us into many themes, and I think this was one of those films. Thank you very much. A question before I turn it over to the audience, a question I wanted to ask you about, I once made a documentary about a theater artist whose health was precarious, and documentary is always an uncertain genre. It's not like narrative drama where you have a detailed script. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the uncertainties you faced in the process, both of filming and in the edit room?
We set forth with this project because we kind of fell in love with Maleonn's work, and we knew about the relationship that he had with his father and the struggle around the Alzheimer's, and that's really kind of all we had to go on. I think the kind of work that we do, which tends to be observational in nature and not necessarily sort of historical or investigative, it's a lot. There's a lot less certainty, for sure. We just had to trust that time is kind of, in some ways, as an observational documentarian, that's our best friend, and our lives change. And when we come to a set of characters like the family at a pivotal point, in a transitional point, you know that their lives will change. And I think it was just the faith that we had that whatever it is that we were able to capture, we were able to make a story out of it.
Right. I'd like to turn it over to the audience to ask your questions.
People are always so shy at first.
Well, the subject of the film is time, literally time machine. So it also represented a huge time commitment on your part. And we see the theater company struggle with the time it takes to develop the project and the funding, and I was wondering if this was paralleled by your own struggle and the energy, the commitment, the financing that was needed to keep working on the project, and how long did it take you from the moment you decided to do it and the moment you completed it?
The project started in 2015, and we pretty much finished shooting mid last year, 2018. The baby Dun was born in April 2018. So we shot the last scene, in July or so, basically. This, and it's hard for me to talk about this without getting a little emotional myself. I just love this project so much, and I love the story so much, and we feel incredibly honored to be able to tell the story, because I feel like it's such a universal story, and it's particularly resonant for people, people who are in the arts in their 40s and kind of, looking back at your work and looking at your aging parents and just, try to reconcile it all. Maleonn's not only struggling with his father's mortality, he's struggling with his own mortality. And I think that's, for us, that's what's really powerful about it. I don't know if that answers your question. In terms of other struggle, we actually, honestly, and this was actually one of the things that was tricky, was that I think the film project in some ways had more support. Not that we were able to generate more money, but for them, they got a lot of money in upfront, and towards the end it was harder to get more money. For us, it was the opposite. That at first it was just a small crew out there following him and following his family, and that's why we were able to get such intimate footage, because it's really usually just one or two, of us in the field. But towards the end, as the film started to come together, people saw the potential, and we had a lot of supporters, as you could see at the end in the end credits. So, but at the same time, when we shared this film with Maleonn and Tianyi and the family, it was really special because they were really moved by it, and we really believe that in many ways this work, is extension of what he wanted to do. You know, he wanted to tell this story, and it's because of what he created that enable us to tell this story. You know, so it's a weirdly sort of all organically, you know, fit together in an interesting way.
I'll just say, did the actual the theater production, did it go on more than what we saw in the film?
It's sort of an ongoing process. So some of that stuff you saw was in the last couple of years. This year they put on another performance in Shanghai. They're definitely still trying to push it forward. You know, I think that they're continuing to work on it a little bit, and it's a big production, as you can see. They have international aspirations, so they're still working at it. I mean, I think again, like as independent filmmakers and artists, you understand that the work is never done, and the conception of the idea is really just half of it, and execution is just half of it, and you have to try and get it out and find an audience and really kind of nurture it, you know, like a child. Okay, I think that's folks in the back first, yeah. I don't know, okay.
Hello, I just wondered that if you go to Shanghai, you can actually see the film, I mean the production?
I don't think right now. I think that their last production was back in March. They ran a series of performances earlier in the spring. It's not on at the moment. No. I don't know about this most recent one, but they were up at the theater above, 上戏院.
In Shanghai?
在那个徐家汇.
Oh,
Yeah. So they ran it in that theater for a while. I don't know what this last round was, because I wasn't there for this round. So yeah.
So
but
the next one you don't know when?
I don't know when, but they'll tell me when it's ready to go.
So there's going to be one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the hope, right? Like
Yeah.
I think they just kind of
Thank
keep
you.
pushing it forward. So, but the good news also is that we have a Chinese theatrical distributor, and you know, we should be rolling the film out in China in the next coming months. So if you're interested in find out more, you should come up to me. I'll give you some information, or you can follow us on social media. All handles is Time Machine Film on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and also our website is timemachinefilm.com.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Hello, I'm from Shanghai. I'm very happy to see this movie. Yeah, this area is I grew up this area, and in around is my relatives, my family, and my friend also all make me so feeling very good. So can I say, are you from Shanghai or
我是台湾人.
Taiwan? Oh, thank you.
I'm from Taiwan.
Yeah. So I'm more interested when you can, on stage in Shanghai. I will tell my old friends to go to.
We actually showed at the Shanghai Film Festival back in May. So,
May? Oh,
for the theater project, yeah. I mean, if you can follow us, we will.
Yeah, very
Yeah, I'm
good,
happy
very
to
good.
kind of
Thank you
update
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you. I think this gentleman up front had a question.
I'm wondering if he's being recognized for his work in China, if he has a popularity, because I find his work to be stunning, sculptural, it's so beautiful and unusual, and I'm wondering if he's...
Yeah, he's actually a recognized artist in China. I mean, you know, he's not a huge star per se, right? Like there's the big art stars coming out of China. But I think that those folks tend to do more political work, and his work is not really political, it's much more personal. He's like a lot of people know his work. He has like, I don't know, 2 or 3 million followers on Weibo, the Chinese Twitter. A lot of the young people know his work. He's primarily known as a photographer. Yeah, so he is recognized, and he has shown internationally quite a bit. Again, you know, he's not an Ai Weiwei or you know, one of those big Chinese stars, but he's an established artist for sure. Yeah, actually, if you want to find out more about his work, you can just go to his website, which is maleonn.com, MALEONN.com. I'm throwing a lot of websites at you. I hope you remember.
Hi, I'm just wondering, I have a couple of questions. So first one is, how did you meet Maleonn, and how did you feel inspired to do this work? And then the second question is, when did you know when to stop? And how did that feel? How did you get to the moment where it's like, okay, I think this is it. This is how we're going to end it. And then the third question is,
You're testing my memory, which is the theme of this film.
exactly, right? So I see this documentary as observational, but at the same time, we hear the narrative from Maleonn himself. I assume that's being done in the post-production. So how much of the storyline is there's you that's there filming this whole process and observing everything and gathering all the footages, and then there's him in the post-production that's probably editing with you guys. I'm not too sure. No. Okay, I guess you just interview him and recorded that dialogue, and then you just put all these narrative together. Anyways, I don't know why I'm answering the question.
I can share a little bit about
yeah,
that.
but it will be very interesting to see how all the process fit together. Yeah.
So if I remember the three questions right, so we met Maleonn. So my film partner Young and I, we collaborated on this film, and he's actually the one that met him first. He's a young filmmaker in China, and this is his first feature-length documentary. So he lives in Shanghai. He was hired by a local organization to make a short, like a 5-minute piece about Maleonn. So that's how he was introduced to him. And you know, he just when he heard that swimming pool story, he just felt like there was a lot more there than a 5-minute story. And then we decided to collaborate, and that's how we ended up making this film together. Now I forgot what the second question was.
So the second question is, how did you
When to stop? Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I think all the documentary filmmakers struggle with that, you know, because you could just keep going, right? Life is endlessly interesting, and there's some really incredible work that's being done following people over, like, you know, decades, right? I'm actually producing a film by another Chinese filmmaker, Fan Jian, who is a beautiful filmmaker. He's making a trilogy about the Sichuan earthquake, and he's following the same families over 20 years and making 3 films out of it. So that's like impressive. For us, we kept joking as we were telling this story, as we were shooting and starting to edit, and we're like, you know what? Like, all we need right now is for him to get married and have a kid. You know, so the whole time through we're joking, like, can he just get married and have a kid and we'll be done? And he, wouldn't you know it, like, this never happens, right? The documentary filmmaker will tell you this never happens. He actually did get a kid, get married and had a kid, just like we wanted him to. So that was just incredible. And that last interview with the clock, you know, behind him when he's talking about his father reacting to his baby, that, you know, that was literally, we shot that interview, we came back, you know, the two of us sat with editor, we watched the interview once, and when that piece came up, we knew right away that was it. Like, that was the ending, you know. Because we needed to know that he now understood. He knew how to reconcile. Well, I mean, you know, it's a little bit maybe, you know, I mean, he, of course, like it's life, and you haven't figured it out. But that was an interesting, that was an important step for him, you know, for us to know that he actually understood that at this point, what you can do is make the best of it, right? To in some ways resign to life, but embrace it and celebrate it, you know, which I think is a lesson that I can learn and a lot of us can learn. So the third question, you know, you asked about the letters. The letters actually, he published a couple of essays. The majority of letters came from his own writing. So as we were editing, we realized that we wanted these stylized elements, because for us, there's a magical realism to the story, and we want to find a way to highlight it, and we wanted to use these really great shots that we have captured, and we thought that what better way to do that than to just kind of have him write these letters to his child, which could be his real child, but could be the puppet, or it could just be about, you know, his art, or it could just be him projecting what his father would have written him when he was younger. And we just thought that all of that was so appropriate that we structured the film with those, you know, moments throughout the film.
This is the first film that I ever seen that, you know, when parents, I don't know, I wanted to ask if you're a parent or like him, like he's like, I don't have any kids, but there is always this thing of parents wanting to, they don't know when their child is going to ask them the last question, that they're learning something new and moving on, because they're missing every moment as the kids grow and you don't have any idea. And this is the first time that I see the same thing put up, but as our life is ending. Do you think about that? And do you have kids that kind of put that a bit of perspective on you?
I don't have kids. I do have a 80-year-old father. So, you know, the reason for me that this story means so much to me is because I can see that, even though that's not happening to me right now, that it could happen to me very soon. And I also look around at my friends who are in their 40s, and, you know, I mean, one of the issues I think is that a lot of us are marrying or, you know, partnering up later in life and having kids later. So in the old days, you would have your parents help you take care of the kids, and then your kids to help you take care of your parents later. But now my friends are taking care of their parents and their kids at the same time. And that struggle, you know, I see some of them just try to pull it all together and still holding down, you know, their career and being successful. I mean, it's like, I just see that, and I just feel so much for them, you know. And I think that it's a really interesting moment, this moment, you know, to be able to kind of look ahead and look back and see full circles on both sides, right? Like, life is cyclical, things get passed down, you know, things happen over and over again. And it's actually really, in some ways, magical to be able to be at a place where you understand that in a very visceral way. And I don't know if that answers your question.
Definitely. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention today, there's another question, but I was just going to say there's one more screening tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the SFU with, I don't know what it's called.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
It's yeah. If you like the film, please share it with your friends and family. You know, I'll be there again. I'll be doing Q&A there. I would love to see folks turn out for it.
And I always say, you know, you have the power of the audience favorite, and I really encourage people to do that because it means a lot to filmmakers to be able to get their film more widely seen if it's been the winner of an audience favorite award, and it also helps get their next project funded, which is always very important as well. I think there was a question.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a second question, but how, there is a moment of extreme poignancy. The son does this project for his father, and then we see the father talking to mother and saying, did you see the show? And she said, yes, and you did too. Said, I did? How come I don't remember? The question is, how aware was he that his son was doing this for him? It seems that he was aware of it at some point, but then towards the end, what did the father take out of his whole thing? Do we know?
I think in that moment he knew that the project was being done for him, but he had forgotten that he saw it. And that was a really intense scene for us to, you know, to capture and then to watch again. Actually, we really struggled with that scene because we felt uncomfortable, you know, because in some ways it was almost too private, and we feel like, are we putting him in a really, you know, in a light that's not appropriate or flattering, but we also know that that was really powerful, and I think in many ways that's almost like, you know, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. So we feel like we had to find a place for it, and we hope that we found the right place for it, that we didn't do him any dishonor, and we kind of just presented his life, how he was living it, but we sort of recognize who he was, and what he meant to the family, and what he was as an artist, or what he is as an artist, but his work, in that moment, that we didn't dismiss it somehow. So I think that for us, the interesting about that moment is one of the things we've been doing is that we've been actually really actively reaching out to folks who work with Alzheimer's and who are caretakers of Alzheimer's patients, and folks have reacted very positive about that, because I think that we've captured a sort of the nitty-gritty of this nuance that about living with Alzheimer's as caretakers, especially, that you cannot explain, that you can watch and now you can experience it, you can explain it. So they're kind of working with us trying to get this film out so they can build some conversations around it and help to support families who are struggling with Alzheimer's.
Question there?
Sorry, just building on that. So I'd love to have more friends see this film, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get them out for 10 a.m. tomorrow. So what are, like, do you have a sense of what the opportunities will be for people in Canada to be able to see this film?
Well, I'm working on it. What we do have is that we have a broadcast on PBS in the U.S. next May, or not next May, but next fall, next summer. Sorry, May is summer or spring. The season for that for the series on PBS actually goes from May to October. So in my mind, it's a bit of a jumble. We haven't gotten a specific slot yet. I am working on also hopefully getting a broadcast here in Canada, and also we hope that this film will eventually end up on a digital streaming platform. Theatrical might be difficult. I think that a foreign language film, especially a documentary, is hard. But again, if you would follow us or send me your email address or go to our website and sign up for the email update, I will hopefully keep you updated with what's happening. And get them to come out at 10:30. Unless they're going to church, they really have no excuse.